December 7th, 2025, Josiah and I made a video talking about Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers. Even in the video, I say how that Paramount is doing their best to put up a fight and win the studio with the intent of us making a alternative or secondary, a different video. However, Josiah couldn't make it, and I still wanted to make the video, even though Netflix walked away from the bidding war at $83 billion being their bid, which was, my goodness, money I couldn't even fathom. Paramount Skydance seems to have won with $111 billion as the current bid, but you never know. That's the crazy part about big media conglomerates. They're always wrestling for control. After the open rolls, I'll break it all down. What I think will happen, what I want to happen, and my wild card pick for this Paramount and Warner Brothers convergence. It's simple. What I think will happen with the Warner Brothers and Paramount merger is the same thing that happened with the Netflix and Warner Brothers merger. I think that somehow, some way, it'll all fall apart. The reason I state this is, even though Netflix didn't walk away with Warner Brothers, they did walk away with some ridiculous pile of money paid by Paramount. And with that, I also heard there was a cash payout to Warner Brothers if this merger doesn't happen, which almost to me feels like a prenup. Or if not a prenup, then something like it. And it just gives me that air of perhaps Warner Brothers doesn't actually want it to happen, or somebody within the company doesn't want to lose control, which makes me believe there's a chance they could fight to not make the merger go through so that they get that, wheelbarrow full of money or whatever it actually says it's going to be. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that the amount of money Warner Brothers would receive if the deal doesn't go through would be more than Netflix received for their deal not going through. If that is the case, it almost makes this all seem like it's a possible money laundering scheme, if true. Now, just because I think that the deal will fall through, it doesn't mean that I want the deal to fall through, because what I want to see happen is, and it's on the thumbnail, I even gave a hint to it on the lead up to this. What I want to see happen is Talos, who in the comics was an emissary of Brainiac, but for the need of the story, if Talos has to be a solo act or the guy that follows Brainiac after Man of Tomorrow, depending on how everything plays out, what I'm trying to say is I would love to see this merger come to pass and there to be a massive movie that you could easily just call Convergence, where you have Shia LaBeouf, Optimus Prime, Michelangelo from the 90s, Raphael from the 2000s. You could have Christian Bale's Batman or Joseph Gordon-Levitt pretending to be Christian Bale's Batman, depending on budgets and whatnot. You could bring in Gal Gadot from the Zack Snyder / her solo film entry, and then have Superman from 2025 be in the film, and just bring all of these characters, whether it be Channing Tatum and The Rock from G.I. Joe, all of these characters that now live in a newly formed, merged Warner Brothers Paramount world. And the funny thing is that if Paramount wanted to sunset DC Comics, IDW puts out Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, all of these things, and I believe IDW has partnered with DC to do the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic crossover. And so with that, I could easily see, with Paramount being the head of everything, them farming out DC Comics, or like I said, sunsetting DC Comics and farming out the writing / art production to IDW. Not that I'm for the idea necessarily of closing down DC, but I'm just trying to think as a global media conglomerate, would it be possibly in your best interest to lease out or do more of a rent system with IDW as opposed to be a direct funder of the comic stories? Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. But like I said, use the comic convergence where multiple dimensions crashed into each other and there was a major event where folks that didn't normally see each other would be in conflict, and that's the way I see this playing out. Like I said, paying homage to the 90s live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, continuing the G.I. Joe and Transformers coming together, except in a much more massive way, while showing love to the DC TV shows like Flash or Arrow, that style of stuff. It's kind of a love letter to what was, and when it's all said and done, it would be an introduction to the fact that going forward, all of the stories would be under the same house, under the same production house. And with that, you wouldn't have to worry about anybody wondering from that point on if things were connected. You would just, from Convergence on, be clear that no matter the TV show, like an old school Flash, or when Supergirl and Arrow were TV shows, you would never have to wonder, are these things in the same universe? Whenever you do a Casey Jones spinoff from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, or you do a Reacher style spinoff to a G.I. Joe, you can rest assured that those are in the same universe as all of your heroes, because I think that's something that Paramount could very well exploit to their advantage, so as to have massive connective franchises. Like I had an alternative idea where they could also launch Space Jam style sports and cartoon animated universe. You just make one for each sport: soccer, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and then you have one massive Space Jam style movie to end it up. But you have to know who your major big bad is. Is it Dr. Robotnik? I don't know. But whomever your big bad is, you allude to the fact that they're the Thanos of the whole thing, pulling the strings. And, each time that the movie would be made or released, it would be whoever's the hot commodity in the sports that the movie is based around, whether it be hypothetically a Derek Jeter or a David Beckham, that style of, it's whoever's the hot commodity in the sport. And like I said, that's another thing I think would fit really well with this maximizing the characters that you now possess, because with Paramount and Warner Brothers coming together, they would have a massive library of animated classics to do this with. And even the NBC show The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins made the joke that he had a football style Space Jam movie. And so obviously it's something that studios are thinking about because it's entertaining. But let's talk about the wild card pick for this triple shot. And after I thought about it, after I wrote it and after I thought about it a little, it's not as wild as I initially thought, because the cosmic killer Chris Statlander having a cameo as a big villain of the week on Star Trek is not unprecedented, because The Rock, The Big Show, and I'm pretty sure probably other wrestlers too, have also been on Star Trek in the past. And so this would actually just be a continuation of a fun trope that has been established as a possibility, that being wrestlers making cameos in Star Trek. And she just felt like the perfect fit because of her character being, a cosmic killer. And with AEW being a part of the Warner Brothers property and Star Trek being a part of the Paramount property, it just felt like perfect coming together of content. But yeah, this was fun. Too bad Josiah couldn't make it so we could hear his. I would have loved to have heard what he thinks will happen, what he wants to happen, and his wild card pick for the Paramount and Warner Brothers convergence. But tell me what you think would be the most fun in the comments below. What properties from both soon to be one studio do you think would be the best to see come together?